Good morning, everybody. I'm Ted Davies, and welcome to Comics Unlimited podcast. We'll be bringing Glenn in here in a second. One of the things that is happening right now is one of our dear artist friends, George Perez, hard time right now health-wise, and I really wanted to showcase him today. I think that there's an opportunity that everybody can hear the stories from everybody right now, which is great that George is receiving from all over the world, from young and old people, everybody that's seen him or met him or just enjoyed his artwork and how they changed or how he changed their lives. Today, I want to talk about, Glenn and I both want to talk about George Perez. So I want you guys to sit back, get one of your favorite George Perez covers or books, and we'll be talking to you.
Welcome to the Comics Unlimited podcast with your hosts, Glenn B. Fleming and Ted Davies.
Hey, good morning, man.
Morning, how are you doing?
It's afternoon there, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, it is, yeah. Just after 3.
Sounds good.
But yeah.
How you doing? Everything good?
Yeah, everything's fine. Yeah, Helen's at work and I'm stuck here on my own again, as normal, just colouring, hatching, drawing and trying to get through the day.
Very similar lives, my friend. We're
having
very
a great
blessed.
time. I've never done so much artwork this past COVID. Let's call it COVID, the COVID era.
Yeah.
I've never done so much artwork. You know, couldn't go out for a year and did tons of stuff.
Yeah.
It was brilliant. COVID wasn't brilliant, but
I think it's brilliant. For all that it has been, it's been a creative, it's been an explosion for creativity, really. For me too. I'm the same way.
Well, for me personally, I've said to you before, it's brought me to the podcast arena, you know, this kind of thing, being on Randy's show and all those things, and Brian Morris, all those things that I would probably never have done that if it hadn't been for COVID.
Or us. We haven't.
Yeah,
we never.
Of course. Yeah,
we would have met.
Yeah.
I mean, we might have met somewhere, but you know, it's crazy. Speaking of Brian K. Morris, we're part of the Rising Tide Broadcast Network, so we want to make sure we tell everybody about the affiliation there. Check out everything we're doing on Rising Tide Broadcast Network 7 days a week. We're a group of creatives that help creatives build their business. So check everything out that we're doing there. And we also want to give a shout out to Cashman's Comics, John and Petey, the guard dog. John Cashman is in Bay City. He's been there 26 years in business. And if you're a collector, get on that website, check out everything that John's got for comics, because it is awesome. Whether you're a novice collector or seasoned collector like me and Glenn, check out everything they're doing. Say hi to Petey too. Send him an email. I think he's got an email address maybe, but Cashman's Comics.
Doesn't Petey have a friend now?
He didn't. He did. And then actually John had an opportunity. They weren't really getting along. The dogs weren't getting along very well. And one of the things about John that his customers are so important to him, and the dog was kind of not aggressive towards people coming in, but it was kind of guarding the shop a little bit too much.
So Petey's there in the back smoking a cigar.
Yeah, Petey's like, man, you're gonna ruin this gig. You're gonna ruin this gig for me. So John had an opportunity. That there was an older gentleman, I think in Canada, that just loves the boxer breed, and he ended up contacting John, and so
he lives in Canada.
Bucky ended up Bucky's Canadian now, so he ended up moving up to Canada.
He's a draft dodger.
So he's a draft dodger. So yeah. But yeah, it's just, and that's one thing about dogs, you know, or cats or anything for that matter. But you know, and I know it was tough. It's a tough decision, you know, John had to make. So, but I know Petey. I think Petey's better for it. But yeah. So I went down there a couple weeks ago, and I found that out. But
so Petey's got a wall in his kennel with dog photographs.
Yeah, right.
Crosses on them.
right. And I didn't have a chance to meet the other dog. So, but he said he was a little aggressive towards people.
Send you a postcard.
Yeah, right. So, but yeah, anyway. Check out everything that John's doing at Cashman's Comics. He is, you know, he's really built my collection. and he, advised me on certain things about what to purchase, what not, maybe wait a little bit on it. Don't sell something right away. He's very good about that. He'll say, hey, maybe you should wait, wait till the market is, and that's the beautiful thing about what John offers, just as a friend and as a business person. So anyway, and then of course, we do this podcast because Comics Unlimited, right?
Yeah,
Are you okay?
I'm listening to you. Yeah, okay. That magazine is the best of its kind.
I think so too. And you know what? I've had people say that in the industry. John Cashman actually got a hold of this, and he's like, "This is fantastic." He says, "Why isn't this in the shop?" I said, "Because you haven't put it in the shop." I said, "We're ready. Let's do it." So once the next one comes out in April, we've got. I know that there's going to be a fleet of people, but right now you can check it out on Amazon under Glenn B. Fleming. Order,
you can find them all that.
Order the back issues, and there's a ton of great content.
We might have to do a couple of specials and do some reprints of all that stuff and get it out there later on.
Absolutely. You know what I think? I think that a possible trade, a trade book would be awesome.
Yeah.
A couple hundred pages, maybe some. That would be incredible. We'll talk about that. Maybe the people in the conversation can let us know what they think too.
I did that with Crikey magazine.
But, did you? Did you really?
I've got 4 volumes of 16 and a 100-page special.
That's excellent, man. That's excellent.
Really, really nice book.
I want to say good morning to everybody. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. We've been gabbing here.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah, right. Carl and Donna, Ryan, good morning. Jody from Chicago. Wow, you're up early, man. Just kidding. I know he's always here. So, David Houston. Hello. I haven't. I don't know if I've. David's been on the show before, hasn't he? I think so. I've seen David Houston before.
But Dave Houston, I don't know if it's the same person, is it?
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Good afternoon.
Right. Well, good afternoon, David Houston. Yeah. Maybe he's changed his name from Dave to David.
Maybe. Well, David's a good name. David's a good name. How are we doing on before we get started with George Perez? How are we doing on Indiegogo right now for your Kirby book?
Not as well as I'd like. I'm almost there. It's sort of tantalizing, really, because it just seems to be. It's probably one pledge away from making the goal.
All right, so we're putting that out to everybody. So today, if you're going to be investing, you invest in the Jack Kirby book and the DVD for Glenn.
You won't be disappointed.
I'm putting an all points bulletin out. I know that we've got. It's going to happen. You've got this. This is one thing about crowdfunding that you're going to find out. It's gonna come in really hot, and then at the end of the thing, people are gonna scramble to get it. It'll be like 2 or 3 days before, and then all of a sudden, boom, you're gonna get another X amount.
I hope so. I wanted to clear the goal after 5 minutes, but that was just impossible,
And this is this is your first time around, though. This is right. This is you've had other ones, so just give yourself some leeway on that, and everybody chime in. Everybody that's run a campaign, tell Glenn, this is just part of the game. And once I tell you what, once I've got the one of the things that are coming in the mail, I'm going to be promoting the heck out of it. You know that. So
thanks. Yeah. I appreciate
that way I can have it in hand, and I can, and I'm going to take it with the shows with me. I'm going to have it in my hand when I go to the shows and say, you got to check this out to the people that I know that I want to show them what this is all about. So, okay. Cause I believe in you, and I think it's a fantastic, I think it's a real,
well, it's like we said before, it's unique and it's historic.
Well, and it's a privilege that not many people, you're the only one I think I've ever heard of doing this kind of thing.
Yeah.
So it's a privilege that you're sharing to people. Yes, there's economics involved in it, but there's shipping, book production, everything else. You're not banking your million on this. This is an adventure, but it's also an opportunity to be part of this continuation of Kirby's life. So I really.
It's my effort to get everybody, get Jack Kirby as well known as other people, in the business.
And
let's put it that way.
Right. And one of the paramount people in my, in growing up in my career too, here as a comic illustrator, and that is George Perez. George has been. Good morning. Good morning, George. By the way, George Medina's in the Q. George is I don't even know where to begin. Have you ever met him?
No.
Okay.
No, never been in the same room with him.
Okay. George is tell me how you met him or how you were introduced to him first, and then I'll tell you about my story.
I first saw him in the Avengers, just as in the early 70s, just as I was sort of leaving comics behind. But the first thing that struck me about his artwork, and apart from his line work, because like line work in comic art, was his command of space and the way that he can have a 9-panel page and there's 50 characters in each panel.
Yes. Even the backdrop we've got here, the backdrop we have here is incredible.
Yeah, it's incredible. And especially with, I picked it up again in the mid-80s with Crisis. I saw Crisis with him and Marv Wolfman and thought, I've got to see this, because I've never been so much a DC person. Excuse me, person. Certainly not Justice League and things like that. But when I read those books, which I still have, it's just incredible work. And they have the three of the best. I can't speak.
All right, you get a drink. I can talk over you anytime. So just let
I'm okay. They had three of the best inkers on his work as well. Jerry Ordway, I think, Dick Giordano, and
don't forget about who's remember.
I can't remember the third one.
Come on.
I can't remember.
John. I'll give you the first name, John or Joe. Excuse me, Joe.
Joe.
Come on. Joe.
Not Joe Sinnott.
Yeah.
What, on Crisis?
No, sorry.
No. That was fantastic. That was Fantastic Four.
I know. But, well, I'm going to talk about that too. But,
Right. Well, you talk about that while I try and choke.
Okay. Well, we're going to show some other artwork of him too. But if you guys have any questions on that too, on any of or have any statements about George Perez, let us know in the comments too. If you could like and share this too, that would be really helpful. Thanks everybody for being in here. I was 8 years old, 1979. And Fantastic Four. Well, we had a local a local grocery store. And the local grocery store had spinner racks. And then they also did this thing where they had these multi-packs. They were like they were like in a bag. And you had like 3 or 4 comics in it. And you couldn't tell what it was, but you could tell the front cover of one of them. The rest of them you couldn't tell. And Marvel put these out, and there would be one. I didn't know this. I was just looking at comics. They would be all reprints except for one, if I'm not mistaken. And this one here was my introduction to the Fantastic Four. So it was 187. This is the original one.
Wow, look at that.
And the artwork is Perez and
is it Sinnott?
Cockrum.
Did
the cover.
Cockrum.
Hold on.
Wow.
Hold on. And then, so Len Wein did the story.
Yeah.
So, and then
Joe Sinnott. Yeah.
Yep. There you go. So this is one of it's not worth very much, but man, this is it. I mean, this was the rub for, this is it. And that was my introduction to Perez.
And just an aside there, 2 things I don't like about that cover. One is they changed the title lettering.
Yeah.
And the word balloons on covers, I hate that.
Yeah. I've got other Fantastic Four with the original, but I'm not going to show you those.
Okay.
Because they're worth a lot of money and I don't want you coming over here. Okay, so continue. Okay? You're freed up now? Okay.
I'm all right, yeah. I'm just going to say about his artwork and stuff. He's just got a fantastic perspective, a knowledge of perspective as well, because some of his work that I think you can show in a minute is absolutely incredible. But I'd just like to ask you, do we know who colored this background?
Oh, I don't know. I know that this is the JLA mashup. Does anybody know? We can check it out online.
Has George inked this? Or has he just drawn it?
I don't even know.
I'd just be interested to know that, because it's such a fantastic. I mean, I wonder how big that artwork is.
That looks like it's digitally colored, though.
Yeah,
maybe I'm wrong, but
I know it's a wraparound, but I just wonder how big the artwork is, because, like we're saying, I mean, what's the artwork size? Is it 15 by 11? something. The artwork page,
11 by 17 or what? Yeah, I would think 11 by
17.
17.
11 by 17. Yeah. And that, so if this is 2 pages, this background thing here, imagine how small those characters are. You know, it's just incredible. Like I was saying about the 9 panels a page, and he gets 50 people in each page, and it doesn't seem crowded.
Right.
You know, it's not just a load of heads and things. He just full bodies. I mean, the way he draws people is just incredible. It's probably up there with the best ever, I would have thought. They're just, you know, they're so dynamic and
amazing.
And his girls are always gorgeous, and and so are the men. Right. It's just brilliant.
Right. Okay, so there's a couple things on this that I might have to change up here. Let me try something here real quick. Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, give me a minute here. Keep talking. I have to move some things around here. I just have to.
See, I never, when he did Crisis, I believe that after Crisis they reintroduced Wonder Woman, partly because of his contribution, didn't they? And
they did.
And that series was such a hit that they brought that character back. And I'd stopped buying comics again by then. I'd not bought comics since probably about 1988. You know,
God, really?
Yeah, wow. I bought the odd one, but I've not collected them since then. Since the end of Watchmen, basically.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of thing. I got the Mobius Surfer one with Stan Lee, which was dire apart from the artwork. But Perez, I don't think I've seen a George Perez Surfer. Thinking about that, he must have drawn him. He must have done.
I would think so. Anybody know? Anybody? I didn't collect any of those, so. When I'm trying to do, guys, just so you guys know, I'm trying to bring up some of the Perez stuff, and I put him in the wrong section on the StreamYard. So just amateur.
Another thing I've noticed about George Perez, he's got the coolest signature in the comics business.
Absolutely.
It's brilliant.
And he signs it differently than he signs his work, and I love that. Yeah. So that you actually have his original, you know.
Yeah, it's really good. The artwork on the, like I said, on the Crisis series, which I think is his best. That's the best artwork. So? I think that's his best that I've seen. But it was. I always think that when you're going to produce a series like that, was it 12 issues? You need to keep the same team. But you know, they put Dick Giordano on, who's no slouch, and Jerry Ordway.
Right.
You know, so, but I just think that things like that should be the same team. I don't think it works when you chop and change all the time.
I agree with that.
But his work always shines through, you know, as theirs does. I mean, they are the best inkers.
Absolutely.
But it's just fantastic. But I understand he was born in the South Bronx from Puerto Rican parents.
I believe so. Yes.
Is that his heritage?
And you know, he looks so different than he used to. Yeah. I was showing Chris a couple of pictures of him when he in the 70s and 80s when he had hair and that. She says, "Is that George?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "Wow," because she's only met him when he's bald, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, and that story is pretty funny.
Well,
go ahead.
I was going to say that I read, there was an interview with him probably in Comics Journal back in the 80s, and he said that he had the greatest training ever because when he went into the Marvel offices when he was 21 or 21.
Yeah.
Stan Lee would obviously be there. You know, Joe Sinnott would be there, and these people just be jotting in, and he'd ask them things, especially the artists. He'd ask them about stuff, and they'd show him. I mean, imagine asking Joe Sinnott anything, and him showing you. You know, I mean, you couldn't fail, could you? If you had any kind of talent, which he does, you couldn't fail.
So David's got the background picture as a large canvas print. That's awesome. That would be cool to have.
That'd be great to have it signed, wouldn't it?
Oh, that would be sick.
I wonder if somebody owns the original artwork or whether he does.
Well, he might. I don't know. There's so much artwork out there that George has done, and I'm going to share with you in a minute here. Well, let's talk about this stuff first. Okay, so here's some of the just some of the character art. Yeah. This is some of the stuff you found.
That looks similar style to Brian Bolland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like really sharp, really nice line, a really good artist work in there. But that is incredible.
A lot of control on that.
Yeah.
And it just jumps. That page just, man. There's no, it's live. I mean, it's completely, there's nothing static in it. It's just all
do we have any idea how many pages he would draw in a day?
No, I have no idea. Anybody else know in the comments? Let us know. I don't know. I never asked him. When I talked to him, he was just awesome. We talked a little bit about art, but he talked about life. He didn't really, we talked a little bit about, what he liked as far as books and that, and it was really, really cool. And that was one thing I really appreciated about him. God, look at the detail.
Look at that.
Holy cow.
That is just amazing. I mean, imagine that page without those bottom 3 panels. How good that would be.
Yeah, right.
Let's
You'd
get
be
those
lost
3
in
panels.
it. Yeah.
Let's just get that out of the way. That's a real kind of Mobius perspective, isn't it?
Yeah,
he does
absolutely.
a lot of that. But it's absolutely wonderful, isn't it?
It's
absolutely. Look at that.
Well, I mean, that's just, I'm a big Batman fan, but man, that is just, it's sick.
See that
so
guy,
sick.
the guy with the gun above.
Yeah.
That looks like Jack Kirby, doesn't it? With that haircut.
I wonder if that's a nod.
It could be, but look at those teeth on Batman.
Right.
He draws the teeth.
Yep. It reminds me a little bit of the Superman Crisis face.
Yeah. Yes, it does. Yeah. Yeah.
Man,
I'm just going to get a drink.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'm in awe whenever I see this type of work, and then meeting the person though is such a weird. Sometimes it's worse when you meet your heroes, but not with George. George was that's one thing I wanted to talk today about, because I think it's important that while people are still here and while people are still breathing air and on this planet, I think we need to celebrate them. I think that was one of the biggest things about wanting to showcase George today. He's had a real bout with cancer, and it's pretty remarkable that the decisions that he's made in his life, and where, with medicines and everything else, what he wants to do, his journey. And it's really important that he made his own decision about what he wanted to do. He and his wife did. And I think that's, I was just saying that, we need to celebrate people while they're here versus when they pass. Right. Yeah. And I think that with George, what an awesome, terribly awesome blessing to be able to have so much love be presented to you from the internet. I mean, it's incredible that the testaments I've been reading over the last month. People have gone to see him, people that he's met with, people that he has never met with or will meet now. Yeah. It's just awesome how he affected people. Fantastic. What a life. What
a real shame with his terminal, isn't he?
Yeah, he is. And recently had an infection that he was at hospice for a while, and now he's home. Which they asked that they could have some privacy, and
so he's retired now. Then
this is it.
Didn't he lose sight in one eye?
I think he did. Yeah. Yep. I saw a picture of him with a pirate patch over his eye, and one of the photos on Facebook. And that was a long time ago though, I think. But what was your first Perez book? Do you remember?
It was Avengers. I'm not sure which one, but it was Avengers. Yeah. Like I said, I was just leaving comics and I was going to college and all that, and growing up with it, you think, and all that sort of stuff. I was leaving. I wasn't happy with the comic scene anyway.
Right.
Marvel had gone, and like I said, I never really read a lot of DC, and then I only read DC when Kirby went over in 1970, 71. But I was starting to leave it behind then, and but yeah, I noticed he was on the Avengers, because I had noticed, and as it was, everybody would have done, that Joe Sinnott was sort of brought back to the Fantastic Four to make the art a bit Kirby-ish and a bit similar when John Buscema was doing it, and then I think George Perez took over from John Buscema. I might be wrong about that, but it was the Avengers, and I was never really an Avengers fan because I'm not really a group book fan.
Mm-hmm.
I never really, I like the Fantastic Four, but I never really got into X-Men, and I've never read the Justice League of America. I don't think I've even read.
Those were staple. Those are staple. Even though I didn't like DC that much, I mean, I was It was a staple. I mean, Saturday morning. Again, George didn't draw that, but it all was marketing towards my age group.
Well, I know he took over JLA after Dick Dillon died, didn't he? In, what's it, 1979, 1980, around that time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long Dick had been drawing it, but it was a while, wasn't it? I think he was on it from the 50s.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
a long time. Yeah,
I think before I was born, right? 71 is when I was born. It was before that, wasn't it? 70 or earlier. I don't know.
Well, I don't know, but I know he was the regular artist on it. I mean, fancied following that,
Oh yeah, I mean, right? I mean,
follow this. We've got a job for you. Follow Dick Dillon.
Right.
Right. Okay.
It's like going on stage after Jerry Lee Lewis or something, right? I mean, come on. How are you supposed to finish on that one? Okay, so we got to see some of the artwork there on what we had. I didn't mean to cut you off, though. Is there any other books that you really appreciate about George? Any other artwork? Or?
It was mainly that I saw some new Teen Titans when he was doing Crisis. I picked up a few of those, but like I said, I was never really into that kind of group thing. I thought that Fantastic Four was enough. 4 people were enough. I mean, if you read the New Gods, you could sort of say that's a group book, but obviously they're not all together at the time. They're under different books. Do you understand? Although the story was the same, moving the same story along.
Right. I was waiting for Jody to pipe up about the Wonder Woman. I never collected any of the Wonder Woman Perez stuff, and I kind of kick myself for doing that now. But now I know Jody. I know that he's, he always buys 2 or 3 of everything, so I'll probably just buy a bunch of them from him.
Yeah, buy 2, 3 of my book, Joe. Get him slabbed.
That's right. But Wonder Woman Perez did a ton of work with Wonder Woman, and I know that Joe is a devout collector of Wonder Woman, so I'm sure he's got some stories on that.
I would have liked to have seen George work, because I read that he used to do his drawing on a piece of wood as a drawing board, just a piece of section of wood, and he would sit on the sofa and watch television, and just draw. Imagine that. Just
I mean, I used to do that. I used to, and I would, but it got too distracting after a while, But,
I used to draw on the paper that the bread came in when I was a kid.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
But what I'm saying is the quality of his work. To think that, I don't know where he drew Crisis, but it was. I mean, Crisis was a big book, wasn't it? It was more than 20 pages, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And to think that you might go around to his house or his apartment and he'd be there on the sofa, drawing, watching the TV. You know what I mean?
I know that there's later on, though, he had quite the studio. I remember seeing him in a video or commercial or something, and the studio was just awesome. I mean, it looked really cool. Yeah. It looked like it was like upstairs somewhere, maybe above the garage or something. Yeah. I don't know. It was really a cool looking place, though.
Didn't he? Because he was a good inker as well. Didn't he ink Kurt Swan?
I don't know if he did or not.
On Superman, I think it was. Was it Alan Moore? Whatever happened to Superman or something? I think Kurt Swan penciled that and George inked it. I'm not sure, but his inking was fantastic as well. But I think it's a bit like Kirby. Kirby was a good inker. He just never got the chance to do a lot of it because he was too busy doing pencils.
Right. Joe said he was a devout reader of Wonder Woman during his time. It was nice that John Byrne didn't change the mythos after it took over from George Perez. Yeah, that's probably a lot of people probably think that. I would think, Joe. So yeah, that's good though. Good stuff. The one that really, I'm going to tell you a little bit about this. So the one I'm bringing up right now is the first appearance of New Teen Titan, and it is my privilege to own this book. DC Comics presents.
I don't believe it. Sorry, carry on.
It's okay. You're gonna have to answer it. This one is like I said, this is one of my favorite books. So I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm gonna be a little bit crazy here. And this is DC Comics presents number 26.
Wow.
And that is my My pride and joy. It is one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite Perez.
It shows you. It shows you again what I was saying about putting people in small spaces. Because look at all that text on that page.
Right.
There's hardly any room for the drawing.
Right.
You know.
But it's still one of my favorite. And this is the first, New Teen Titans, and the first appearance of it. And these books are worth a lot of money. This book's worth a lot of money.
Right.
And and I'm very, very privileged to have it. But that was done in 79, 70, what was it? 79, I think. I don't remember now. 70 or 79, I thought. But that's not that was decades before I met George.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask the question. Okay, so how did you meet George?
Ted, how did you meet George?
Funny you asked me that. Good question. So for 3 years, I worked 3 or 4 years. My buddy Pete, who's on the call usually, I'm surprised he's not here today. But hey, Lewis, how you doing? We worked for a nonprofit called Dan's Dream, and Dan's Dream is we have a friend that's in Lansing who is I think he's still the largest private owner of comic book art in the country, I think.
Wow.
And Dan, I mean, it's incredible. He's got well over $1 million, and it's unbelievable the history of the artwork that he's got. Dan suffers from MS, and he has he's limited on his speech and that. But in any case, he communicates with artists, and they give him artwork all the time. All kinds of artists give him artwork. I've given him artwork as well. But major people, George Perez being one of them, Joe Sinnott did too. Bank did too. I forgot his first name, but I'll show you that in a second. Anyway, so what we do is we would go for this nonprofit. We would raise money to buy comic books to teach illiterate children or people that are having problems with reading. Help them read with the comic books that we would raise the money for to purchase, and we would get all of the gallery together at like Michigan Comic Con or Motor City Comic Con, and we would build a makeshift gallery. Basically, is what it was, with all this artwork. Incredible. And we would charge people. Limited production prints were made by the artists, and they were also signed. And what they would do is we would sell these in order to raise money for the nonprofit for Dan's Dream. So, and in that, I got to meet. It was just incredible. I mean, everybody from David Finch to George Perez, and George was absolutely fantastic. We had a very unique way that we met, and my buddy Pete, you guys know, on the conversation that we were literally walking over to the hotel, and Christine was with me and everything else, and there's a van that was unloading, I don't know, Windstar or Caravan or something, and there's this bald guy getting his bag out of the back of the van, and Pete goes by, and Pete knew George for many years, and he says, "Hey, what's up, George? How you doing?" And I'm like, I didn't realize it was George Perez until he turned around, and I'm like, I just kind of just stood there. I was like, you were with Jack Kirby. I was like, I was gobsmacked. I just didn't know what to say. And I looked at Christine, and she's like, "Are you all right?" She thought I was having a heart attack. I'm like, "No, I'm fine." And I just couldn't talk. It was just one of those freaky things. I was about ready to grab the bag, like I'm helping him into the, like some type of helping him into the hotel or something. Like I'm just supposed to be there to assist, And I said, "It's George Perez," and she says, "George who?" I'm like, "Okay, just hold on a minute." And Chris is like, she didn't know who I was talking about. And without missing a beat, Pete stops and says, "Actually, this is my good friend Ted. He's an artist, blah, 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 blah. And he's a huge fan of yours." And he said, "Oh, cool." George turned around. He says, "How you doing?" And that was it. and we're friends ever since. Just a fantastic guy, super guy. And he's like, "Hi, Christine," and Chris, now she knows, and she's like, the royalty of it all. It's like she couldn't believe it. So we were really sad to hear everything, what was going on with his health. And we've been keeping an eye on him the last few years anyway. But I haven't seen him since then at a comic book forum. But it was really that's George, though. That's the way he is. But
he's a real person.
He is. And what he did, though, for Dan's dream was Dan asked him to do a piece of art. And so we sold the prints and that. And what he did for me is he ended up signing this piece of art. Yeah. So this is one of my favorite Batman pieces that he did. Just fantastic. And you'll notice that he signed the artwork, and then he also signed his signature on the bottom. So that's just, and this is one of my, and again, it's a print, but it's still, it's one of my prized possessions now.
Why is it not in a frame?
I've got it in my portfolio. I like keeping it in my portfolio. So yeah. So
put it on the big screen. Wow, look at that.
I mean, just
it's almost like Frank Miller, isn't it? With the black and white.
It is, absolutely. But and that's number 38, the 200. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I just love it. And I talked to Chris about putting it in a frame, and she's like, "Okay, let's do it." So maybe I'll do that. But there was a few things about George, though, that hey, there's Pete. You remember that, man? There's Pete. So yeah, Pete's got some stories too about George. But yeah, I was really if it weren't for Pete, I don't think I would have met him. And it was so I'm in as usual, I'm in debt with Pete, one way or the other. One other one I want to show you too that Joe stepped up to. Once Perez got involved, I think Joe got involved first and then Perez. Pete will tell you. I'm not sure. But then we got this one. This isn't Perez, but this is Joe. Joe did this one.
Yeah. Wow, look at that.
That's something. This one's not signed, though, if you'll notice.
Yeah.
Number 117 out of 200. But yeah. Anyway, pretty awesome though. But yeah, so that was a pretty awesome awesome Comic-Con. I got to say, I was just absolutely blown away. I didn't know I was a drooling mess. I was an absolute drooling mess.
You want to try eating when you're a drooling mess.
Well, I know and then during the course of the show in that, you could go right up to him. There could be a line of people, and he'd say, "Hey, how you doing, Ted?" or whatever. Chris would walk by, "Hey, Chris," and it was funny because Chris still didn't know who he was. And Pete will tell you.
That's the best. That's the best way, isn't it? When people don't know who people are, and they're
like you were saying, you were saying about the film, the guy taking the film, Bob, and the Kirby book. Yeah. He didn't even know who he was. I mean, all of us would be on the floor, passed out, and he doesn't even. He's never read a comic book in his life. Wow.
I suppose he's the perfect person to take the film, isn't he? Really.
It is. You know what? That is the comedy in it. That's why I think that God, she has a good sense of humor, because I think that's it. That's the way it. That's what makes it real to me, because that it's so obscenely, oh my God. You know, and for us, it's unimaginable, right? Yeah, but that was and I owe Pete a lot for that, because that was a really, really one of those times in your life that you don't realize how important it is until years later, and I think it really did change. I think it really did change a lot of my perception about the reality of people, like being able to go talk to people. And one of the things that really was great about working with Dan's Dream was that we had passes to go to the green room. Wow. So we went into, not the green room that Carl has, but the green room for the entertainers at the show. I mean, I had lunch with Ralph Macchio, and I mean, it was crazy. I mean, it's nuts. You're sitting with these people, and it's like having a cup of coffee, and
and you tell me off for bragging.
Right, I'm a name dropper. Yeah, right.
No, you've got to do it. No, I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Don't hide
I mean,
it.
I was sitting. I've got pictures on my Facebook page. I'm sitting with Billy Boyd from Lord of the Rings, who was Pippin. All these people. I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, this is absolutely nuts.
I'll tell you something.
Quite remarkable.
He was fortunate. You know what we were saying when he started out. He'd go into the office and Joe Sinnott would be there. And
right.
Well, wasn't he also an assistant with Rich Buckler in the early 70s?
Yeah.
I mean, well,
he
was working on Deathlock, wasn't he?
Yeah, right. And I've got a couple of those. I didn't realize he did, and I went back and looked at. I'm like, holy shit, he's on this book. He's on this book. I'm like, oh crap.
It'd only be about 20. What would he be in 1973? 20. How old was I? 18.
Yeah.
18, 19. Because he's the same age as me, so he'd only be 18, 19. So it's just amazing. You couldn't go wrong, could you? Like I said before, if you had any kind of talent, you couldn't not get a little better, could you? Hanging around those people,
No, I don't know. Yeah, and that's you're one of and meeting George is one thing, but meeting other people too. Some of them were just like, I'm like, I'm not talking to you again. I can't, you know what I mean? I'm not. I didn't. Some of them I just didn't want to be around at all.
I saw some of the British artists at conventions like that.
Yeah,
who I used to sort of quite like their artwork and thought, oh, not sure about the man,
Right. And I've heard stories from other people that it's like, wow, okay, I'm never going to buy a piece of art with those people on it. That's just, they charge a tremendous amount of money, obscene amount of money to get an autograph, and I'm like, and they treat you like crap. No.
Yeah.
George didn't do. I mean, George, he might charge for a autograph now, and that's under, of course, no respect, big time, but he never would treat anybody like they were beneath him. And that's
I had a similar experience with Walt Simonson. I told you about that when I was talking to him at a convention. He was being interviewed, and I was sort of chipping in, asking him about artwork and stuff instead of what was going to happen to Thor next week, And then he got called away, and I was just thinking, wow, I've just been talking to Walt Simonson. And he came back. He came back to talk to me because he wanted to talk to me about Kirby and about artwork.
Yeah.
He came because the other guys had gone, and he came back for me. He said, I've come back to talk to you. He said, where's the other guys? I said, they've gone. He said, well, he said to me, have you got 10 minutes? Yeah. I said, yeah, I've got all day, Just a really nice guy.
That's awesome. And see that changes everything for me too. I'd be like, now I'm going to look for his work, And I mean, I know people have bad days in that. I'm sure George has, right now, especially with everything with his health, but he was just so accommodating, and it was like it set a standard for everybody else. Because once he acted that way, everybody else around him was that way.
Yeah.
If you got somebody that's just a jerk, and that ends up, filling out through the masses, but when you're not,
apparently there's I don't know who they are because I don't know any, but a lot of the actors are a bit like that in Hollywood, aren't they? They're a bit.
Well, some of them are. I mean, I'll tell you one person that wasn't, and Pete will back me up on this. Jason Momoa wasn't. He was awesome. He sat down with us and had beers, and he was great. He was just. Pete's. I should bring him in on a show, and we could just talk about that one night meeting Jason. That was awesome. That was really, really awesome. And then I've had other people say, "Oh no, Jason, no, he was great. Yeah, like he enjoys Michigan craft beer. That's all I got to say about it. But it was a good time. It was a really good time. And this is prior to Aquaman. But that was pretty neat.
Wasn't George also working with a foot in both camps at one time in Marvel and DC? Wasn't he? I didn't think that sort of thing was allowed, but or was that just early on? It was.
I think so. I think it was just early on. I don't. Pete might. Yeah,
because I know George Frank Giacoya in the 60s was inking for DC under some other names, wasn't he? And no, he was Frankie Ray. He was called, wasn't he, for Marvel? He was working for DC, but he was moonlighting with Marvel under Frankie Ray. And I think he did a few Shield books and Daredevil books as Frankie Ray. and it was so obvious who it was, because it was it was so obvious. Is that your package?
Yeah, the man. Well, I don't know. Whatever. She's going to be barking. Usually it's, it might be still a little bit early, but I'm hoping to get that the UK parcel here soon.
Delivery. Pete says we got so hammered.
Yeah, we did. I don't quite remember.
I don't remember
that. I don't remember that. We were pretty. Yeah. It's hard to drink, Jason. Drink him under the table. He was. Yeah, he was very accommodating, though. Very, very nice guy. I was very. And what was the rub of it all? The real bad part of it? Christine and all the girls left right before he met us. They went to go get Taco Bell, and they missed the whole thing. The whole thing. And Pete and I were like, and they're like, "What have you been doing?" We've been hanging around with Jason Momoa. Shut up. No, seriously. We were sitting down there. We're sitting on the road. We were just talking to him. We sat down there we were there for what, Pete? For about an hour and a half. About that. And it was great. I mean, and that was, that was, again, that's a surreal moment, because you see the people for who they are, not for what their handler presents to them, or their, you're paying $100 to get a picture and a signature or whatever. And that's part of the business. I get that. There's been other times, but consistently George Perez was always the nicest person. Period. There's no, it was a good thing that she didn't meet him. She was pretty upset. And now that's my my total, power over you moment. I'm cooler than you,
I don't know whether there's a book. Is there an art of George Perez? Because I was just wondering if there's a list of all the books.
We can check it out on Amazon.
Yeah, I was just wondering if there was all these a list of all these, how many pages he's produced over the past 50 years.
I don't even know. Yeah,
So
it did feel like a few minutes, Pete. You're right, but it was about an hour though. It was about an hour. One of the things too, I noticed, because that particular show, there was a couple people that were they were bombarded by fans. They couldn't even get dinner without being interrupted, and they were with their wives, and it was just really awkward. And Chris and I witnessed that. I wouldn't want fame for that reason. They couldn't even get dinner. It was like they were just they couldn't even sit at the bar and just have a bite to eat with their significant other, because people were all around them. People were hanging on them. I mean, it was just, it wasn't, that wasn't enjoyable. There are multiple art of Perez books. One is called Storyteller,
right,
and it's hardcover, and there's a Modern Masters book from Tomorrows. Thank you, Lewis. I appreciate that. So there you go.
Check it out. I'll check those out. Thanks, Lewis.
Carl's like, Aquaman stole my wife. Yeah, I'm glad that, like I said, I'm glad Chris wasn't there. It would have been, it would have been a different drinking show for sure. Okay. So, I don't think I'd be Spoon Boy anymore. I'm drinking with the Davies if that happened. That was cool. It was good talking about George too, though.
Yeah, he is one of the best artists to come out of comic book. Well, in comic book history, let's put it that way. Because he's like we said before, his line work and his anatomy and everything, he's second to none, really. He really is fantastic. But his line work does remind me a lot of Brian Bolland.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Very crisp and very beautiful stuff. Yeah.
Pete said, Storyteller is awesome. George signed it for me. That's awesome. I didn't know that, man. I didn't know he signed that. That's awesome. Good.
Brilliant. That's fantastic.
Good.
It's just very sad that the news that we've got. And
I think, it is. But what I don't like the saying every man should visit his own funeral to hear what people say about him in their lives.
Right.
And I see that with a lot of people that have been told that they are terminal, and what they're going through already emotionally and everything else. And then you've got this wealth of karma is probably the best way to put it, of all the things that you did in your life that were good and people came back and told you about them and what you meant to them while you're still breathing air. What a blessing. What a good life. What a, and I think that is, I think that's a position that George is looking at life now from, and at a point, and that's got to be pretty humbling. And you know what? I did it right this time. You know what I mean? This life. So I really got to hand it to him, and I think that we all pass away, pass on, and I think that the way that he's doing it is with grace and with style, and he's doing it on his terms.
It must, like you say, it must be a great thing to know that a lot of people at least love your work. I mean, we don't know him, we love his work. That must be a great feeling.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it will help you much, but it must be a nice feeling to know that you've contributed in such a way that it's never going to be forgotten.
No, he won't. And we'll be talking. Well, yeah. And rightfully he should. He should be very highly spoken of. And that I think that's the important part of what I wanted to show today, because I think that, or what we wanted to show today, because I think that too often we are talking about people after as a past tense. And I think that we don't need to do that. I think that we should celebrate people for who they are today.
Yeah.
While they're here. And including everybody here in the conversation, including you, Glenn, of course.
Yeah.
Which I do. I celebrate with you every week, man, because you're an incredible artist and incredible creator. So, and I appreciate you very much.
Thank you. So
thank you. Okay, just send the check.
We'll get Craig to send us both one.
Oh yeah, right. Eventually. That's about it. So if you guys have any other stories to put on for George, or I would recommend going to the George Perez Facebook page and write down, if you've got a story, a positive, uplifting story, and post it on there, because I know that he's home now with his wife, and I know that they're keeping things quiet, and they're trying to. I don't think they're going to have anybody else over except for her family, and so at least from what I've been reading. So hopefully, I just hope that he's not in a lot of pain. That's the main thing.
Well, he's not taking treatment, is he?
I don't think so. I don't think at all. I don't think it was his decision, which I respect. Totally respect that.
My best friend's dad died of cancer about 20 odd years ago, and he could have taken the chemotherapy and all that kind of thing, but he wanted the quality rather than the length. He didn't want to spend the next 6 months ill.
Yeah, and that's what he said. And that's what George said. I don't want to be in and out of the hospital. Or
that must take a lot of guts,
Oh
to face your mortality like that.
Yeah,
but it shows you what kind of a person he is, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And he's just a great guy. It's like that neighbor that you'd want to have next door. When you're at a show, when you're and he's
obviously he's like Jack Kirby. He's a great guy, and then he's a fantastic artist.
Yeah.
Which we can all hope for.
I think we should all take note of that, and remember your humility, and your humanity. And that's still have etiquette when you're in front of these heroes of ours, in front of the shows, and that don't vomit all over them your story and what you're trying to do, and you're respectful of their time, because that's a hard thing when you're, and there's business side of all of it. But what really made it important for me with George was that there was always a separate disconnect from that. He was a human being first. Even when he met Christine, he was like, "You don't know me? That's awesome. That's great, because you get to meet me for who I am. I'm the crazy guy with the shirts. That's because I used to wear some really crazy shirts. And he took time. He took time and talked to you. It was you. It wasn't like look at me, look at what I've done. Look at that's a really important thing to remember about the way he is. But I appreciate you letting me do this, man. This is good. This is a good show.
All right. It's all right. It's necessary. It's like you said, we should celebrate him while he's here rather than, you know, the fact that we're not going to be around too long. But yeah, this wonderful work. I'd love to meet him even now and just say thanks a lot, you know.
Yeah.
But you have to leave people alone, don't you?
Well, and let them live their lives, however long or however, you know. But pick up one of their books. Pick up some Perez books, man.
Get the
in
Crisis.
Some of the trades. Yeah, get
Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Yeah. Yes. And then or get some of the artwork or the art books that we talked about in this too.
Yeah.
Let's raise some funds for the Perez family. You know.
Yeah.
One of the things, speaking of raising funds, they're bringing out that book. DC's bringing that book out of all of his artwork, the crossover work. They're limited production. I ordered one from John Cashman. You guys could check it out. I know they only has a few copies that he was allowed.
Is that the one that Shooter had stopped? What was all that one about?
I don't know. But they the proceeds, I believe, are going to help pay for any overages as far as costs with the Perez family.
Well, I hope the publishers can get some kind of pension going for Mrs. Perez.
I hope so.
They did
and
that
I think that his royalty, he should have a good chunk of royalty material too. I hope.
Yeah, because I think they put Ross Kirby on a special pension,
and they should.
They should do.
Take care. They need to take care of it. Pete, it was our pleasure, man. Thank you, man. Thank you for making George a friend, Davy's family friend. So thank you. I owe you for that, bro. Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yes,
so guys, check out George Perez, everything that he's doing on Facebook and that. I know that you know, it's a time right now for him and his family. And so, but be respectful. But if you do have a story, please, you know, let them know the good stuff.
Yeah.
And then you know, purchase some of the books. Go to your local comic shop, pick up some of the books that Perez has got in the back catalog and the trades and everything else he's got out there, and support your local comic book store too.
Mm-hmm.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Fantastic.
We'll talk to you guys soon. I don't know what we're going to do next week. If you guys have any comments or suggestions, please put them in the queue. And I'm gonna take us off of here, and we're gonna look at his artwork. And,
brilliant. Let's do that.
We'll see you guys later.